views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
Hello, and welcome to a new show that I'm going to be starting here at WWDB-TV with John Stiles. It's called Let's Talk Sports with Rick Manarino. I fashion myself as a guy who loves sports and has a lot of opinions about sports and gambling lines and betting lines and making money doing that. The show is not necessarily going to be about that. It's going to be about different types of sports and different perspective I have on things that are happening in sports day to day. And I'm going to key on one particular subject, or that may change, but this is just kind of like an introduction to you that I'm going to be having this show called Let's Talk Sports with Rick Manarino. And I thought this week it would be kind of fun to talk about NBA basketball in the bubble. I watch a lot of basketball. I have always been a big NBA fan. I am amazed by the talent. I always say that NBA players are the most talented athletes in the world. The things they can do and fly through the air the way they do and dribble the basketball and shoot from long range and be so successful, it's always been amazing to me. So, you know, I've been a big NBA fan. Most people say, well, they're the biggest fan of football or soccer. I love them all. I love them all, and that's why I'm going to do this show. I'm a sports lover, and I have the option of doing what I want to do here at the studio, and that's a new show that I'm going to be taking on, and I'm going to have guests, and I'm considering having a co-host. Again, this is just my introduction to say hello, let you know that we're going to have the Let's Talk Sports with Rick Manarino, and just kick around some ideas. So understand this is a kickoff of it. It's my first show. We got football coming to us pretty soon. We're right in the middle of hockey in the bubble and WNBA women's basketball in the bubble and soccer in the bubble, and it's all been pretty successful. And there's been few cases of coronavirus. I think NBA has 0, and so they're really doing it right. It's a little different with no crowds, but I don't know if you've watched it, but it's kind of fun, and we'll get into that more. But you know, it's going to be very, very compelling to understand what's going to happen with football. They're in camp now, and most of the camps have been pretty safe, and there's been very few cases of the virus in football camps, but they haven't played games against other teams yet and haven't traveled to other stadiums. And I'm seeing that most stadiums are not going to allow fans. I know in Vegas, they are saying that the Raiders are not going to have fans, and I noticed that LA just noted that they will be having no fans to start the season, and until further notice, there will be no fans in these new big, beautiful stadiums that we have here in Vegas and Los Angeles. There will be no fans. So I'm curious what's going to happen in football in 2 weeks, and amazingly, it starts on the 10th. That's crazy, where football is upon us, but with just strictly training camp and scrimmage between teams, and that's kind of interesting to me, with no preseason games. I think they should have had some dress rehearsals, at least 2, but you know, I'm not the guy making the decision, but I believe you're going to have a lot of injuries in the first couple of weeks of pro football with no preseason games. I think it's going to be tough, but they're going to they're going to be cautious on the side of not starting too soon. I hope it works out for them, and it's not going to be a problem. Baseball has been interesting. So many teams. Again, you've got multiple players on teams, and you travel to cities, but for the most part, they've been able to play baseball. There have been some cities like Philadelphia and St. Louis and Washington and a few other cities that have had to slow down on playing and have had to take off for a week at a time. I think at one point the Cardinals had played 5 games in the season when the rest of the teams had played like 20, and I think they're fine now and catching up. There was a big problem in Miami with that ball club. But, you know, it's going okay all in all, and we need sports. Americans need sports. We need sports. It gives us happiness. It gives us hope that there's other things to do besides work constantly and stay in the house and worry about COVID-19. So we're going to have different types of shows every week. I'm excited about it because I've been a guy, to give you my history, I've been involved in sports my whole life. I've been a guy who's loved sports. I've played sports. I played college football. I had a stint in professional football. Very short stint. Was not a great player. Nothing to brag about there. I'll move past that quickly. I was a very average player. Good in college, though. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to put some information out about sports and what I like, and talk about, you know, a little bit of gambling as we go, in the gambling lines and the betting lines. And I'm going to do that when I have my co-host, and we can talk more about it. We can banter back and forth about what we think. I've played, I think, in the last couple of weeks, 13 NBA basketball games. I've won 9 of them. So I like to think that I do very, very well at NBA. The last 2 nights I bet, I think the Lakers were favored by 7 or 8, and I bet them, and they won by 30-something, and that was a nice win for me. And last night, the Clippers, I knew Dallas was going to have a rough night after that big shot at the end of the game to beat them a couple of nights ago. I knew that the Clippers would light up. I knew they would light up Dallas, and they did. So those type of bets are good bets. On the other side of the coin, I thought that Utah would finish the series against Denver. They've been playing so well, and I bet on Utah last night, giving 2.5 points, and lo and behold, Denver, that kid Murray, lit it up and had an incredible game, and Denver got back in the series. It's 3-2 now, and not sure what's going to happen, but I just want to give a few opinions of what I've seen. I think playing in the bubble has been fun. Michelob came up with an idea that they were going to have virtual seating, and I don't know if you've watched any of the NBA play, but to me, it's like it's almost a full crowd. They got these virtual screens all over the arena. You can actually buy a seat to your home team. If for instance, you're watching the Portland Trail Blazers against the LA Lakers, you can literally buy a seat, and you're going to be virtually at the game. It's so amazing. I don't know if you've seen it. You got to watch it. A lot of people tell me they're not watching NBA because of the views of the players and kneeling before the national anthem and all of these things, which, you know, have their validity and their place in society. And I'm not going to criticize it or say anything negative about it or say anything other than everybody has the right to believe what they believe, and the ball players have the right to believe what they believe, and those that support them, fantastic. I watch basketball because I enjoy it. I'm not going to become a political crazy man about it. It's just not my thing. Sports bring me joy. I love betting on a game and sitting there and watching it, and particularly the late games at night. I like to sit at night and watch basketball. But NBA, a couple of trends that have been happening, and some of the things that have really amazed me, and I hope you guys are watching an NBA. Some of you like it, some of you don't, but for those of you who are watching it, a couple of impressions. I think the Lakers are every bit as good as they say they are. It started out that Portland beat them in the first game, and Damian Lillard went off and had an incredible game. Portland was feeling with the puffed chest and very big about themselves after game 1. After 4 games, they're down 3-1, and I pretty much believe the series is going to be over tonight, particularly since Damian Lillard got hurt in the last game, hurt his knee, and I think he hyperextended it. It looked pretty bad, but he's out for the rest of the series, so I don't believe they have much of a chance, and the Lakers are going to go on, and the Lakers are going to be in the championship. LeBron James is a beast. That guy is unbelievable. I saw him take a Cleveland team a few years back that they had no real talent other than him, and he led that team to a championship against Golden State. He brought them back from being down 3-1, and they won a great championship. I can't help but believe between him and Anthony Davis, they're going to lead the Lakers to the championship of the Western Conference, and it's going to end up being against the Clippers. The Clippers have kind of gotten their act together. They were struggling against Dallas, and Luka Doncic, that guy is unbelievable. A 21-year-old kid that I've never seen anybody. I've seen some players, not many, shoot the basketball better than him. He is a superstar, and they got another guy on that team called Kristaps Porzingis. Let me get that name right. It's a tough one, but that's a good little team. And they won a couple games against the Lakers, and against Clippers, and that series is about to be over. The Clippers put it to Dallas pretty good last night, and I think they'll finish that series. But inevitably, I think it's going to be, as everybody has predicted, Clippers versus Lakers, and that's kind of a pick-em situation. It depends who's playing well. Finally, Paul George for the Clippers started playing good basketball. He had horrible first 3-4 games, and he finally, I think he scored 35 last night and got on track. He said he went to the team psychologist and had a talk, and he brought him confidence, and that's amazing to me. A professional athlete that's been so good and so confident needed to go see a person with the team that would help them get through some issues, and they played well again. I thought that was so awesome and so sensitive of Paul George to talk about it last night in the interview room after the game, so I thought that was cool. But, pretty good ball clubs there. I think the Lakers and Clippers are going to play again, and it's going to be a great series. I don't even want to predict it at this point. We'll see what happens with injuries and the things that happen, but I'll talk more about that as we get closer to the championship of the West. In the East, in the NBA East, there's some good basketball teams. People kind of wrote Toronto off and said they weren't going to be anything without Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is in the Clipper land and doing well, still the superstar. But for some reason, Toronto's playing great basketball. And they are a formidable team and great opportunity to win it. Miami Heat, same thing. Jimmy Butler and some great players on that team playing very well, swept the series, doing incredible. Then you've got Milwaukee, who's been predicted to be in the championship with the Lakers, the NBA Finals, and Milwaukee's doing okay. They got a bad start and lost their first game, and they've been incredible since. Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics are a great team, hardworking. They had a real good series and really, again, swept their opponent. But I think we got a series starting tomorrow, the semifinal of the East, Miami versus Boston. What a series. Excuse me, Toronto versus Boston. Miami's probably going to end up playing Milwaukee, but it's going to be Toronto versus Boston starting tomorrow night. And again, it's a pick'em series in my opinion. I kind of like Boston. I think they're going to end up winning, and I think they got a little more than Toronto. We'll see what happens, but that's going to be a war. So I look for them to Boston to go on and probably end up playing Milwaukee in the East and for that final, and we'll see what happens. There's a lot of basketball to be played. I just wanted to recommend it. You check it out. It's better than watching baseball, because baseball, it truly is gigantic stadiums with no people there, and looks like a couple of teams having a scrimmage, and we're all baseball fans. I've been a baseball fan my whole life. I love baseball. I love watching teams like the Dodgers and Angels because I am from Southern California. I enjoy watching a lot of baseball, but for me it's tough. Those quiet stadiums, and I know they're piping in fan noise and those type of things, but it's not the same. So baseball doesn't do much for me. I'm watching it, and there's a couple of good ball clubs, and we'll get more into that. But I think the key right now is that we watch NBA, even hockey. Hockey's great, but it seems like big empty stadiums, and it's tough to watch. Though the Golden Knights are playing incredible hockey and have a very good chance of winning it all. They had a tough loss last night, but they haven't lost many games. Vancouver will play them tough, but Golden Knights will prevail and do well, and I know they have such an incredible fan base here in Las Vegas, and I expect the Raiders to be the same. And we'll talk about all those things, and there's so much to talk about when it comes to sports, but I know inevitably people like to have some tips on betting and want to know about betting lines and how they can make money, because let's face it, it's always if you're any good at it, it's a fun way to make extra money and bring some extra income and bank into your family. Betting on NBA basketball, again, I played 13 games. I won 9. Next week or the week after, I'll start talking about betting lines when I have my co-host here, and we can talk about it and banter it around. I just don't want to be a one-man show that talking about, I think you should bet this, and it's good to have a couple of opinions. So, again, this is just the kickoff, a little bit of interest there. I'm very interested about sports. Again, follow the NBA. It's a lot of fun, and you really feel like you got fans there when you watch it. But some great games coming up, some real good games coming up. We'll talk more about it next week, and everybody's going to be in the semifinals of the West and the East, and those games are going to get exciting and a little more well-balanced. There was, I think 3-4 game sweeps, which is boring basketball. I think it was Toronto, Miami, and somebody else that swept. Toronto, Miami, and Boston. They all swept their series. So that wasn't much fun, but those are good teams. We'll see what happens in the next round. Watch some NBA. I'll have some betting tips next week as soon as I have my co-host here. Enjoy the show. This was just a kickoff. I wanted to explain it a little bit, talk about something, and let you know that WWDBTV has asked me to do a sports show here, and I'm going to do it. We're going to have fun with it. It's going to get lively. I'll have guests in. I'll have a co-host, but this was just my basic introduction. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We got a lot of fun talk about sports coming up, and we all love our sports. opportunity to get away from the craziness of everyday life and do something fun and argue with our friends about who's better and who's best and who's going to win this and that and who's the best basketball player. And, you know, it's fun stuff. So let's talk sports. Rick Manarino. This is just to kick off an introduction to you that lets you know what's coming up. We're going to have fun with it. And eventually we'll have a call-in type of situation where you can call in and we can discuss it and you can have your opinions. And looking forward to that. And again, it's going to be here at WWDBTV, John Styles. And we're looking forward to it in addition to the other shows I do. So let's talk sports. Enjoy your bets, make some money, have fun. We'll talk more next week when my co-host is available. Thank you for listening today and following. God bless.